All right, Chair Davis, we are now live.
Thank you, Dr. Townsend Smith. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this March 15th, 2021 called meeting of the North Carolina State Board of Education. I'm Eric Davis, Chair of the Board, and I call this meeting to order. Prior to the start of the meeting, a quorum of at least 7 members was confirmed for this called meeting. Board members are reminded that it's our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. I now ask for a motion to approve the March 15, 2021 agenda.
So moved, Reggie.
Motion by Mr. Keenan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hall. Dr. Townsend Smith, will you call the roll to capture the vote?
Yes, sir. Dr. Oxendine,
Yes.
Ms. Kiemnitz,
Yes.
Mr. Keenan,
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes. Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan,
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes.
It's
Motion
unanimous.
carries. We have an agenda. Thank you. I note for the record that the board will take a roll call vote on all items requiring action at the conclusion of this agenda. In so many ways, it's hard to believe that only 1 year and 1 day ago today, COVID-19 forced our North Carolina public schools to close for in-person instruction. The challenges and opportunities of this past year are many. However, as we work together to reopen every public school in the state, we will do so by following the health and safety protocols so that all of our schools can safely operate. COVID-19 has changed all of our lives in so many ways. Nevertheless, we are determined to turn this pandemic into opportunities to improve the lives and education of all of our students and to fulfill our state's constitutional responsibility of a sound basic education for every student. My colleagues and I wish to extend our thanks to members of the Department of Public Instruction, to superintendents, principals, teachers, support staff, and all other partners across our state for all the support that you have provided to our students over the past year. Your commitment and dedication to meet the needs of each and every student embodies the best of the North Carolina spirit. At this time, I'll call on Superintendent Truitt for a few remarks. Superintendent.
Thank you, Chair Davis. As we look this week to mark the 1-year anniversary of the famous flipping of the switch, as it were, of our classrooms, where literally we had students leaving their belongings in their cubbies, leaving their backpacks hanging up on pegs in classrooms, only to come back months later to retrieve their things. It is essential that we emerge stronger from this past year. I have experienced this pandemic wearing multiple hats, as I'm sure everyone listening has. I am the daughter of elderly parents. I am an immunocompromised individual. I was a candidate during this time, and the parent of children for whom I worry about every day. I have not experienced this pandemic as a teacher, and I can't even begin to contemplate how difficult it has been for those who had the knowledge that they could not be with their students face to face every day, and what that must have been like to try to transition from what was normal to complete upheaval. And the success with which our teachers have accomplished this is nothing short of miraculous. Storytelling about COVID is going to be a part of our fabric moving forward. I have no doubt about it. Everyone who is listening will have a story or two to tell about their time throughout COVID. But I know that we will find ways to be resilient and help our students be resilient. That we will look to the positive and find a way to communicate our shared human experience. I look forward to the coming year and know that we will be finding new and innovative ways to support our districts right down to the student level. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Superintendent. We will now proceed to our committee work, and I recognize Vice Chair Duncan, Chair of the Business Operations Committee. Vice Chair Duncan.
Thank you, Chair Davis. Along with Todd Chastain, we lead the Business Operations Committee, and we have a matter for action on first reading today. The department has developed an application for public school units to apply for their portion of the funds from the ESSER 2 funds from a menu of options for allowable uses in these funds. In the ESSER 2, which is under PRC 171, there are 3 newly identified allowable uses in addition to those from the ESSER 1 funds, which, as you recall, was PRC 163. These allowable uses are outlined at the beginning of Part C in the application as part of the materials you received. At the regularly scheduled meeting on March 4th, we approved the allotment policy manual, ALOT 003, and updated to include the specific allotments for the respective public school units. The purpose of this presentation is to allow the members of the state board to provide feedback on the application before it is released to the public school units to apply for the funds. We have Dr. Robert Taylor, Dr. Latricia Townsend, and Ms. Alexis Schaus all have been involved in the development of this item, and I'm going to turn it over to them for the presentation for the board.
Hello, Vice Chair Duncan. Latricia Townsend here to go through the application with you. As you know, North Carolina received $1.6 billion that will go out as part of allocations from this particular fund. As you said, the allotment policy was approved earlier this month at the March meeting. Since that time, my team has created an application for PSUs to actually claim their share of this fund source. The application will be deployed in our Comprehensive Continuous Improvement Plan, or CCIP, which is our web-based planning and grants management tool. It connects PSU goals for improvement to budgeted activities. The application has the following sections. There is a needs assessment, data analysis, allowable uses, a portion for summer learning, and lastly, assurances. The needs assessment and data analysis portion of the application asked PSUs to reflect on their current needs as they begin to develop a robust plan for the use of the funds. While the allowable uses portion asked PSUs to outline the strategies they plan to employ. For each activity, district leaders must provide a clear timeline, define the impact measures they'd like to track over the course of the grant period, and then the amount that they choose to use for each of the earmarked strategies. Okay. The next section would actually ask PSUs to share information about the summer learning programs that they are going to use to mitigate any learning loss that has occurred up until now. And then the last portion of the application is just a set of assurances that is required by federal law that will actually ensure adherence to federal grant requirements. We plan to open this application on April 1st, and we'd like to have all applications in-house by May 31st so that we're able to process those applications within the current fiscal year. I'm happy to entertain any questions at this time.
Are there any questions or comments for Dr. Townsend on this application? All right, not hearing any. Dr. Townsend, thank you very much for your work and the work of your team in putting this together, keeping track of this sum of money and meeting all the applicable requirements for properly documenting its usage is an extensive task, and we're most appreciative of the attention to detail that's being paid by you and others on your staff and in the department. So thank you very much for the presentation and, more importantly, for the work that's being done. All right, Chair Davis, that ends the
Mr. Duncan?
committee.
Mr. Duncan?
Yes.
This is Ms. Kamnitz. This is separate from the application. Could I just make a quick observation about the allocation of these funds?
Please.
I just wanted to share some numbers with my fellow board members, and you'll understand why in a minute. Camden County, which is in the Northeast, has 1,900 students, and their allocation of these current funds is $500,000. Hyde County has 600 students. Their allocation is almost $800,000. And not to pick on our colleague, Dr. Miller, Greene County has almost 3,000 students and is allocated $5.6 million out of these funds. And my point is that while I recognize that these allotments are based on Title I numbers and it targets the students most in need, almost all of the students in our schools have been adversely affected by COVID. And I'd like to just have us be mindful as more funds become available to us in the future that we are able to distribute to the districts to keep this disparity in mind. Thanks.
Ms. Kamnitz, thank you for those comments. And I have also heard from Camden County and appreciate, I know you've heard from several there. One of the things, if the board is in a place to have a 10% holdback on these funds, one of the things we could look at, as we have done in some other areas for allocations, is to determine if there's a minimal per student allotment that we may want to provide as part of the statewide work that would be separate from the mandated allocations here. That would be something that would be dependent upon what flexibility exists with the department and the state board's review of use of the 10% funds, 10% holdback funds. So I appreciate you raising that point to keep it top of mind as one of the many issues still to be looked at and handled as we try to equitably distribute these funds for all students during this important time.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan.
Other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, Wendell.
Yes, please, please, Mr. Hall.
Thank you, sir. Just have a question. I was looking at the usage for the funds. Is there anything in there that reads that any of the funds can be used for any type of bonus to teachers?
Dr. Townsend?
I was having trouble. I apologize. That would be an allowable
Mr. Hall, any follow-up on that, or does that answer your question?
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that.
Oh,
A lot of.
the answer was that would be an allowable use.
It would be. It would be.
Would be.
Thank you. Thank you. Or could be.
And
Could be.
I believe Dr. Townsend said would be.
Would be. Or would be. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments? All right, Chair Davis, this time I again attempt to return it to you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Duncan. At this time, we will move into closed session, and following closed session, we will return to open session to conduct the remaining items on our agenda. I now request a motion to go into closed session. Vice Chair Duncan.
Yes, that was a quick volley. I move that we go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute, Section 143-318.11A1 and 3, to prevent the disclosure of information that is privileged or confidential pursuant to North Carolina General Statute, Sections 143-129.8D and 115C-321. To consult with our attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, including specifically to consider the case of Leandro versus the State Board of Education.
And by Vice Chair Duncan, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Kamnitz. Dr. Townsend Smith?
Yes, sir. Dr. Oxendine,
Yes.
Ms. Kamnitz,
Yes.
Mr. Keenan, Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Dr. Tipton Rogers,
Yes.
Ms. White,
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan,
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, the motion carries. We'll immediately go into closed session. Those not involved in closed session could drop. Dr. Townsend Smith, let me know when we're ready to go.
Yes, sir.
Deanna, if you could hear me, I'm trying to put in my credentials for the closed session. I'm not sure where to put them in.
Brandon, you're give me 1 second, okay? We're live right now. Give me 1 second.
No problem.